Finally getting his turn with the tune-up treatment, another beetle type stands to get the upgrade. It is the starter, the KBT starter from Medarot DS, KBT10 Gun Nose, REGRADED, with a kit of Napalm, Power Rifle, Mega Gatling, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Assail, which grants the shoot boost effect to self when charging Metaforce. Now, as another iconic KBT starter, Gunnose most certainly makes his place in the KBT line very, very well known and solid, especially with a much more prominent asymmetrical design and appearance, which has been cause for a lot of folks either to love him or to hate him. And when it comes to current competitive meta, he has sadly kind of fallen by the wayside, with being not nearly as fast, maybe not quite as strong either, but still a very well-rounded model all the same, especially when it comes to being very beginner-friendly when it comes to higher artillery combat. Napalm on the head part is a gunpowder-based skill, and instead of being standard missile like other beetle types of his family, Napalm is a scattered AoE attack, meaning it will damage one part normally, and then two others randomly at an extra third damage each. Power Rifle on the right arm is a conventional shooting skill that gets a times 1.5 damage bonus if the user's legs remain intact. Of course, with that extra power does come a little bit more of a cooldown penalty, where you're not able to dodge or defend at all while you're in your cooldown. So a little caution is advised if you are planning to make use of this extra power. Just make sure that someone is there to cover Gunnose's butt to make sure he doesn't get punished on the cooldown. Mega Gatling is another scattered AoE skill, much like Napalm, damaging one part normally and then two others randomly at a third damage, but it gets the damage bonus like Power Rifle does, so you can slap an extra times 1.5 on there as long as Gunnose's legs remain intact and standing, which, given that he is a relatively chunky boy, that's really not hard to maintain. He may not be the fastest, but you most certainly cannot deny his power either. The leg ability of Assail also does tie into his overall kit pretty solidly, as it means the shoot boost effect will grant him an extra 50% damage bonus to all three of his skills, given that they're all shooting variant skills, even if it does require him to charge for one turn in order to make use of it. So if you aren't able to fire off right from square one, perhaps even spending a turn to charge and then build up some power first may also be in Gunnose's best interest to do so. Now, when it comes to his overall tune-up treatment, Gunnose is one of those models that it's nice to have him, but at the same time, not necessarily something that's going to absolutely make or break him either. He already was a very pretty well-rounded model, minus, of course, his relatively low speed, which was kind of a really big detriment to him, unfortunately, very early on. He's still a very well-rounded and synergetic beetle-type model that you can still use pretty conventionally and very easily right out of the box. When it comes to his tune-up bonuses, though, his head has an opportunity to earn a plus 100 in success, 100 in power, or a plus 100 in heat and cool each, respectively. Now, honestly, with a lot of Gunnose's bonuses, you could really go one or the other, especially with his head. If you'd rather go for the success bonus, higher likelihood of hitting, higher likelihood of critting. If you want the power bonus, you can do that too. But personally, I think the heat cool bonus might be the best opportunity on him, given the fact that it does mean that he will have a little bit of an easier time running to and from the line to charge and recharge the attack so he can use it repeatedly, especially given that AoE attacks and scattered AoE attacks are very useful and viable thanks to Silent Leader. So if they do manage to damage the head part even more than once on the attack, it can very easily flush the enemy leader out or determine if it's somebody you can entirely ignore if you just want to get the fight over with quickly. The right arm Power Rifle has access to plus 100 to armor, plus 100 to heat, and a times 1.25 damage bonus maintained if his legs are broken, and permanently maintain a times an extra 0.5 bonus, boosting that 1.5 to times 2 at any other point. Now, much like it was with Arc Beetle, who also got this upgrade, that honestly goes without saying, and especially the same with Mega Gatling as well on his left arm. That is going to be the really big bonus that you're going to want to shoot for, as this means that even if his legs do end up getting broken at some point, which is inevitable given the combat and the behavior of Robattles, it does mean that you can still maintain just a little bit of a damage bonus on top of that at the times 1.25 instead of the standard times 1 of a basic rifle you'd be getting with it, and the no dodge, no defend penalty anyway. And if Gunnose's legs do remain intact, Bumping that 1.5 to a ×2 honestly speaks for itself over how useful it can be. And with any extra points you get on top of that, you probably could pump into armor or even into heat. It honestly depends, it's honestly up to you, but an extra not even less than 100 really isn't going to be super noticeable, and I will kind of leave that to your discretion. With his left arm, he has access to plus 100 to armor as well, plus 100 to success, and the same damage bonus modifier as his power rifle. Now again, much like the power rifle, that damage plus is going to be the big upgrade you want to shoot for. Anything after that, extra armor for survivability or success for higher likelihood of hits and crits, it's going to be completely up to you because, like I said, that extra 100 or not even is really not going to be super noticeable. It's going to be really, really subtle, and if you really pay close attention, you might notice it, but in terms of competitive meta, you probably won't even see it. Whereas with that damage bonus, you're absolutely going to be milking the mileage out of that more than any other stat bonus he might be able to obtain. With his legs, he has access to plus 200 to armor, a plus 100 to both his melee and his shoot resist each, plus 200 to mobility, and S rank on grassland terrain. Now, like I said, Gun Nose honestly is a very synergetic and very beginner-friendly model, especially when it comes to higher artillery power. But the problem is that compared to most others, he's not fast, unfortunately. With a base mobility capped at just barely high 500s, he's definitely going to be falling on the wayside, focusing more on artillery than speed. But with that extra 200 to mobility, that is going to pump him up to about the mid 700s or so, which is actually a whole lot better than where he was before. May not be as great compared to most other competitive meta models that you might see in the Meta League or PvP, but every bonus he gets counts, and that's why the mobility bonus is the best in that respect. Any extra points you could put toward that armor for better survivability, or if you'd rather have the melee and shoot resist for better damage reduction, or albeit slightly, it's going to be completely up to you. The terrain bonus, much like all others, it's nice to have but not required, and it's going to be honestly up to your discretion after you invest in that full 200 on mobility. All this being said though, comparing my original pure set and mixed parts scores, I did originally grade Gun Nose at a pretty well-rounded and synergetic 7 out of 10 for his pure set, and an 8 out of 10 for his mixed parts. Because again, non-heavy power rifle and mega Gatling really you can't go anything wrong with, even if they may not be nearly as powerful as most of the other ones that we see currently. That tune-up bonus can really come in handy as well, and that's minus any other, say, Medarot bonuses or anything else that comes to mind. Legs, unfortunately, is where he kind of fell off the wayside, but the tune-up bonuses really do help him with that. And with that being said, I honestly do have to maintain the same pure set score at a 7 out of 10, primarily because he gets pretty much slightly better in every aspect, but you won't see too much of an overall change in his performance aside from a pretty noticeable speed bonus, and maybe some extra power if he does maintain it. As his new mixed parts score, I do have to bump him an extra half point up to about an 8.5 out of 10. Honestly, and it kind of goes without saying, the damage bonus on the power rifle and the mega Gatling really pretty much speak for themselves. Like I said, that they're non-heavy, the damage bonus pumping up from 1.5 to ×2 and keeping 1.25 if the legs are broken means that you can use these very flexibly and very reliably anywhere in pretty much any kind of build that you want to keep high power shooting and not focus on wasting a heavy slot.